Most productivity advice is designed for neurotypical high-structure environments. But what about the rest of us? What about those of us who work remotely or have ADHD or are just plain overwhelmed achievers? Well, if you have tried all the typical productivity advice that's out there, we are going to debunk it today and let you know why the things that are being recommended on a lot of websites and YouTube videos and podcasts aren't the things that are probably going to work for you. You're not broken, you just need a system that works for your brain and where you're at in your life. So let's take the first piece of advice that we are going to debunk today, and that is the 5 a.m. rule. We've heard it touted that if you get up at 5 a.m. and you follow this elaborate routine, your life will magically be 1,000 times better. But that doesn't actually work for a lot of people because your chronotype, or when you're naturally geared to have more energy and be more alert, is actually biological. It's hardwired. So whether you're an early bird or a night owl actually is not within your control. And trying to force yourself into a schedule that doesn't lend itself to the way that your body is naturally wired can actually lead to burnout. So what do you do instead when everyone says this is the way to go? Well, figure out your chronotype. We actually have a really great quiz in our Feel Good Focus course that you can get when you sign up for Flown, as a side note. But you can take this quiz and figure out exactly what your chronotype is. What point in the day, whether it's late at night, early in the morning, somewhere in the middle, you are at your energy peak. And then you try to gear your most elaborate and demanding tasks to those times of the day when your brain is at its peak. This naturally gives you a focus advantage and helps you to feel fulfilled instead of being frustrated. All right, productivity tip number 2 that we are going to debunk today is that you should batch everything. You should create little blocks in your calendar throughout your days that are for specific tasks and do those tasks at that time. Well, for a lot of people, that requires a level of executive functioning that requires so much pre-planning and forethought that you just don't have that in you, or maybe you're tired and burnout anyway. So trying to figure that out feels like a huge task in and of itself. It can also require a lot of energy and effort to switch between the different blocks. So if your back-to-back blocks that you're doing have very different kinds of tasks, it can require your brain to use a lot of energy to switch over into that new mode. So what is the answer? Well, instead of blocking different times throughout your day, actually create whole days that are themed for the kinds of things that you need to work on. So maybe you have admin Mondays and creativity Tuesdays and so on and so forth. That way, your brain can stay focused on the same types of tasks all day long instead of trying to switch between them, and you don't have to have a lot of forethought going into it. You already know you're doing admin on Monday, so you don't have to pre-plan that in advance. Okay, productivity tip number 3 that we are debunking is start with your hardest task first. Actually, dopamine helps to initiate motivation, and dopamine comes from small wins. So if you give yourself a few easy tasks to start with and get wins from those, it can help you to gear up and gain the momentum you need to do the harder tasks. Task initiation, especially for neurodivergent people, can be very difficult. So if you gather up a few of those tasks that you've already checked off your list first thing, you have already gained momentum and felt accomplishment, which allows you to step into those harder tasks more easily because you already feel like you're winning. It helps you to accomplish them in less time and also with less frustration getting started. Productivity tip number 4 that we are going to debunk today is to always work in silence. Actually, a lot of brains get distracted by themselves when there is only silence in the room. So if you actually have some lo-fi beats, brown noise, or a pulsing kind of sound, it can help you to stay focused better and let your brain not get wrapped up in its own thoughts, but actually focus on the things that it needs to. The added noise kind of helps cut out the noise in your head. We found that a lot of Flown members actually really like having a playlist to be able to listen to during virtual co-working sessions because it helps you do just that. Stay focused and do the things that you're actually wanting to get done without being distracted by what's going on in your brain. Tip number 5, and our final tip that we are going to be debunking in this video, is that you should plan out every single minute of your day. This, again, takes a lot of executive functioning to even figure out what you should be doing in every minute of your day, and it doesn't account for things like what your energy levels might be like in that day, or where your natural interest might lie. It doesn't allow for flexibility of other things coming in that you might need to take care of, and in the end, it can lead to more frustration and burnout when you weren't able to follow the plan exactly. Recovery and flexibility actually increase increase creative output and reduce stress. So what you need to do is actually leave blank windows of time throughout your day to allow for that kind of flexibility, to allow for the unexpected. Try anchoring 1 or 2 key tasks throughout your day, but then leaving the rest to be flexible with what might come up or what feels the most applicable at that time. Use a visual calendar so you can actually see where that white space is going to be. These productivity tips that we've talked about today aren't necessarily bad, they just aren't universal. They don't work for everyone. It's really important that productivity is personal and you find the plan that works best for you. And if you want even more tips and you want to come and virtually co-work with other people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, we would love to have you come over to Flown. If you visit the link in our description below at flown.com, you can try us out for 30 days and see just how beneficial virtual co-working can be. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back again next week with more great tips to help you with your planning and focus.